Controlled chaos here. I have an interview with someone new from Stars Reach. They're not new to Stars Reach, but it's a different type of interview because we're used to hearing interviews from developers and players. But I have Signus with us, who's a moderator for Stars Reach. How are you doing today, Signus?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really, really good. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview.
Yeah, sure. I happen to be out in Maine at the moment on maybe like the one vacation I've taken this summer, but it's in a lull. Everyone's between breakfast and lunch, so I get to sneak away for a little bit.
Well, I
So
appreciate
forgive me if
you.
I look in vacation mode. It's because I am.
Hey, it looks good. I mean, if we had Lyric here with his t-shirt on, guys would be
I
matching.
need to get one of the Stars Reach Hawaiian shirts for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, let's get to start figuring out and some of the history about you. How and when did you get into gaming?
Yeah, so I think probably the earliest memory I have is when my family would go grocery shopping, they would dump me in the video game department at like a Target,
Uh-huh.
and I played a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog on the Genesis kiosk. We weren't allowed to have consoles for a while, but anytime we went grocery shopping, I'm like, please bring me along. I'm just gonna sit there, strain my neck looking up at the TV. So it was probably 94, 93, something like that. So it just was a fascination ever since then. And as I got older, I eventually bought my own used console, got a PC, and yeah, kind of was off from there.
Cool. Yeah, that almost sounds like the way I was raised, except I grew up in the 80s where there were a bunch of arcades and there were no real good consoles that could do what the arcade machines could do. So my mom would dump me off at an arcade, have me play there while she went out shopping. And, it's the 80s, so latchkey kids, leaving your kids alone and not knowing where they are during the day was a normal thing.
Yeah, it's definitely something I miss. I still kind of have that. You know how a lot of phones have the Find Me feature, and I understand for safety it's good for some people, but I always turn mine off, and people are like, "Why?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I grew up with people not knowing where I am, and it just kind of feels nice to know I'm." So long as I like call someone and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be in this general area. If I don't come back by tomorrow, something went wrong." But like otherwise, I'll make my way home.
Well, yeah, and that's a good thing is I do the same thing because when I do a cycling trip, I do cycling tours. I'm going to be cycling from Portland, Oregon up to Fort Stevens, which is near Astoria, Oregon. And so it's a 90-mile trip. And every night I sort of call people that, want me to call them to let them know I'm okay. Such as my roommate, my mom, and stuff like that, and just say, hey, I'm okay, I made it to the campsite, whatever. And then during the weekend, while I'm actually at Fort Stevens, because I'm surrounded by like 100 other recumbent cyclists, there is like, don't even bother calling because one, the cell phone connection is terrible. You're lucky if you're gonna get a connection, and two, they know I'm around 100 friends.
Yeah.
So they know I'm going to be taken care of. So with that, how did you find out about Stars Reach and get involved with Stars Reach?
Yeah. Well, so I guess I can kind of thread those two together. When I really got totally sucked into gaming in a huge way was my next door neighbor. His dad did work for the Navy, still does. So he had like a pretty high-end computer. And I would spend a lot of my time at his house. He had spare computers in the basement, so the three of us, his dad, my best friend, and me, would have little LAN parties of Age of Empires. And then he got roped into playing Dark Age of Camelot, which is, for those who don't know, MMORPG from 2001. And that was just it. Like virtual world, I had already been pretty connected into IRC and chat rooms. I loved getting to know people online. The social aspect of being online was kind of my favorite part of it. So then combining that with a video game in a virtual world, it was just had to be MMOs. That was my fascination from then on. But over time, MMOs changed. the demographic for MMOs changed and the MMOs changed with them. They kind of became a bit less. Most of them became a bit less social over time, and I kind of witnessed that happen with Dark Age of Camelot, where I saw in real time as the gameplay got tweaked, the impact that would have to the social game.
Mhm.
And I started to kind of in real time be nostalgic about, I remember when I started playing this game. It used to be more social, more like this, and now it's everyone's kind of doing their own thing. And so then I jumped to Star Wars Galaxies, and I'm like, oh, this is the community. This is more what I'm thinking of. And I started to pay attention to how the gameplay influenced how people interact and things like that. And so I've kind of just been a vagabond in the MMO scene since then, just glomming on to whatever game had the mechanics that I thought would pull in the most kind of organic social world. Started reading more about game design, read Raph's postmortem for Star Wars Galaxies, and then just like when I finished reading the book, I'm like, man, wish he just like took all those lessons and had another shot to do something with it. And then not too long after that, I heard, I think it was in like early 2020, I heard about he was developing something, and I found out that there was a Discord for it. I think the Discord was started in January 2020, and I joined in like June. And I'd kind of always wanted to be. I'd done some moderating and testing for other MMOs. I was a longtime moderator for Darkfall, which I can give some anecdotes about that later. But basically, I'd kind of always wanted to be involved in a big social game like Stars Reach. And when I saw Raph was developing a new MMO, I'm like, I just got to get involved somehow, even if I'm just there to tell other people about the game. I want to be a part of making it, because this is exactly the kind of MMO I miss, and this is exactly the kind of developer I think who can pull it off. And so, yeah, around June 2020, I hopped on the Discord. New people would come in. I'd answer all their questions, tell them what they wanted to know, and then at some point, they asked for moderators. This is the unofficial Discord, by the way. It's not the same one we have now. They asked for if anyone wanted to moderate. I said yes. I've done it before. I can do it again. And it was me, Vestat, and Ali were the three moderators for a while. Then we had an official community manager who has since, she was great. She kind of set up the Discord that everyone's using now. Danielle, she works for Bethesda now as their community manager on one of their projects. Set up this Discord, and then Rick came on board, and we've kind of just been rolling ever since. And as the population grows, we get more and more moderators, and I have kind of de facto ended up being the one who's been here the longest. And so it's not like a title that bestows any special powers onto me. I've just been here the longest, so I'm the senior moderator.
Well, that's a really cool. I like how you sort of progress things along, because my story is somewhat similar to yours, except mine was EverQuest. I got into EverQuest and I liked the hardcoreness. You had to group together to get things done and stuff like that. And I played that up until they put in, what was it? Luckland. When they did the Luckland expansion, they made it so everyone could teleport themselves around. And it destroyed the teleport economy for wizards and druids, which were making bank teleporting people around because they were the only ones that could do it. And at that time, it was like, okay, the community's starting to die in this game. You know?
Yeah.
And so I need to find something else. And that's when I found Star Wars Galaxies and PlanetSide and City Heroes were the three that I branched out to. I played Star Wars Galaxies for just the community hanging out, having fun type of gameplay, and just really relaxed, do whatever. PlanetSide, which, as we all know, Dave Jordanson was the lead developer of, I played that when I wanted to have military tactics. Because the group I was hanging out in there, they were all in the military or military veterans. I always wanted to join the military, but because of my cerebral palsy, I'm automatically disqualified. Because I wanted to join the Marines right after high school, and I couldn't.
Mhm.
So this was the next best thing, and they let me hang out with them, and they treated me like one of them because I followed orders, I listened to what they taught and things like that, and they literally put me through a boot camp. So that's what I did there. And then City of Heroes, just like playing a superhero, and it has the best character customization of any game ever.
Unquestionable.
I mean, it was amazing. And over time, I think Stars Reach could match that with the customization of crafting that they're already sort of planning with changing of colors and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We'll add a lot to that. And then we'll see how it sort of goes from there. But after those all shut down, I was like you. I was just a nomad hunting for the next thing until I actually found Stars Reach. And when I heard it was being done by Raph, I'm like, just like you, he's the only one I believed I could do it. And then when I heard that Dave Jordanson was connected, I was like, even better because he worked on EverQuest Next.
Mhm.
He's got a good feel for that. And then I remember seeing the Kickstarter and the list of games that the developers have worked on. I was just like, okay, they have an MMO history, a bunch
Yep.
of MMOs, and they have a gaming history. 100% I'm going to back and support this game.
There's kind of a huge sense whenever they talk about their methodology for how they're rolling out features,
Mhm.
you get a really big sense they know exactly what they're doing. They're like, this is not our first, second, or third rodeo. We know exactly
Yeah.
what pieces of the track we have to lay to get to the next. We know we can anticipate what kind of reactions are going to come from the community. They're like, hey, we've got to do it this way because this is the best way to do it. We know there's going to be, yeah, they've seen and done it all kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like there's a decent amount of indie MMOs that have come along with similar goals or ideas around social stuff, but
Mhm.
they haven't been tried in the trenches yet. And
Yeah.
so there are some features you see and you scratch your chin. You're like, I think they're going to have trouble with that. They're like, no, it'll be fine. And then sure enough, they trip over the same mistakes that people made in the '90s and the early aughts.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah, no, these developers have seen and done a lot. And the last couple interviews that I've watched with them, there's people on here who worked on games that I played at my cousin's house when I was little. I'm like, that's
Mhm.
unreal. There's like an all-star team.
Yeah, it is a great team put together. So, with you being a moderator for Stars Reach, what's your basic jobs?
Yeah. So no one gave us any job titles, really.
Mhm.
We had some guidelines of kind of the goal of what we're to be looking out for and what we want to do. But my day to day, I'd say, is a lot less than it used to be. Um, when it was just me and two others, there was a lot of constant checking of the chat and making sure that the messages from the developers were handled and making sure things didn't go out of control. And usually it was just a lot of discussion and theorizing about what the game would be like. But every now and again, we would have to step in and mediate things because the community was so small and passionate. We didn't want to, like, if somebody gets heated, we're not going to say, get out of here. We're going to be like, hey, just like, be nicer to each other. We're all excited about this game together and we're all decent people. Let's treat each other decently, things like that. Um, Nowadays that we have more moderators, it's I have to worry about so little comparatively, which is crazy because we've got a bigger community now, but we've got a lot of great mods on team, and Lyric has really taken taken uh, taken point on a lot of tasks that need to be done consistently, and so maybe it's unfair to always expect him to do it. We don't ask him.
Yeah.
We're willing to share the burden, but Lyric is just always on top of things. So just even having more people around. So sorry, long-winded answer what you asked. What I
Yeah.
do as a moderator, primarily answering questions. That's the biggest one. People are always wanting to know stuff, or some people come in with misconceptions about what Stars Reach is, and
Mhm.
it's really good to kind of cut that right in the beginning. If someone's like, "Hey, I'm worried about this game having free for all PvP," you're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, no, no, no! It's not going to be free for all PvP. This is generally the gist of how the game's going to work. That might be for you. It might not be for you. We just want to make sure you have the right expectations." So a lot of just answering basic questions like that. Sometimes mediating, telling people, reminding people to be decent to one another, and really just setting the tone for how we want the community to be going forward, because that's kind of going to be what makes it. Obviously, the game has to be fun, but it's such a social game that we want the base of players to be people who are empathetic enough to get along with one another and build a better community.
Well, I can tell you
So,
right now,
really,
being a part of that community, you've done a great job because a lot of people are helpful, respectful. I mean, in all honesty, that groundwork that you set up of sort of setting the tone has kept, because I don't see you guys really stepping in that much, saying, "Hey, hey, hey, you know, calm down," or "You can't say that here, be
right.
respectful." I don't see any of that. What I see you guys mainly doing is, like you said, answering questions, giving links
Mhm.
to the Kickstarter or to the website and things like that I'm seeing happening, and I think is really nice and interesting. Now, the question I have is, do you have any powers in the game, sort of like a GM? Or is it
Um,
just a moderator on the Discord?
there have been talks of certain tools for moderator characters in game. Haven't checked in a month or so, but so I don't know if for sure. We currently do not have any powers in game.
Mm-hmm.
And if we did, I think it would be explicitly like flagged moderator characters. It wouldn't be like our regular characters who have god modes or something like
Yeah.
that. But there's been talk of giving us one or two tools to kind of alleviate griefing if it pops up.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just until, in theory, when all the parts of the game are put together, it's kind of going to naturally police itself and discourage griefing. But until we get there, and as more and more people get in the test, the more and more instances you're going to have where people grief. And as we go to 24/7, the devs aren't always going to be on to, you know, flip those players out of the way. So probably mods are going to have special characters who can go in and I don't know. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what, but not super powerful tools, but ways to kind of help keep things under control.
Okay, that's so you will be sort of like if things turn out the way you were talking, you would sort of be like the GM in game, which
Yes, yeah.
is sort of good, because I remember in all of the MMOs I've played, having the GMs there to sort of keep things fair and
Mhm.
square is a good thing. Because I remember when EverQuest came out with the faction PvP server, I played a Dark Elf Enchanter,
Mhm.
and enchanters at level 4 got the human illusion so they could look human. And right next to the
Yeah.
Dark Elf city was the human city of Freeport. And I'd go over there as a human and I'd start attacking players. They immediately call up a GM and say, "Hey, I got a player that's hacking here. He's, humans aren't allowed to attack humans. What's going on here?" And the GM having to go, "Well, he's in reality a dark elf with a human illusion on, so it only looks like a human's attacking you."
He's playing the game.
Yep, exactly. So they really couldn't do anything. And, I
Yeah.
did for a little bit and then I stopped. I had my little bit of fun. I did like 3 times and I was like, okay, I'm done with
Yeah.
this, and moved on. But,
I think we've all been tempted by stuff like that,
yeah.
especially in the early days of MMOs. It's like, oh, I can do this thing. All right, I can see. All right, I scratched that itch.
Yeah,
And keep
yeah.
on.
And that's where the empathy comes in, is you see something you can do, you go and do it for a little bit, but it's not the right thing to do, so you stop and then
Yep.
you say, "Hey, you might want to tweak this or fix this," stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's happened in Stars Reach a little bit too. In some of the early tests, people figuring out that fire can damage people's stuff.
Mhm.
Some people did it accidentally. Some people did it to like see how far it could go. and then like sent a report being like, hey, you guys, devs might want to reel this in because I can burn someone's homestead down or burn their plants down, stuff like that. And I think we've only ever had one person who did it on purpose because he had beef with someone on the server.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's part of it. It's all helpful in testing because if one person does it now, when there's thousands of people, there's going to be more people doing it.
Yeah.
So intent matters a lot, and it's hard to read intent online because you're usually just dealing with text, and that's one of the things I and other mods have really stressed with one another is trying to reach and reason people and not assume they're doing it with ill intent until you get enough information that they're doing it to be mean, and then it's like, okay, now start to treat this person a little bit suspiciously.
Yeah, and that's understandable. I mean, not everyone can get away with burying a developer in the game, you know. And, that's just, it had to be done.
There are some things that are in good fun, and sometimes
Yes.
even gods need to be humbled.
Yes. And the great thing that I really like is the development team has a good sense of humor. Because when I did my first video about Stars Reach, saying I have a problem with Raph Cosner and Stars Reach was the title of the video. And I brought it up to Raph saying, hey, I'm going to name the video this, but this is what's going to be in the video. And it was all saying that I'm enjoying the game too much. I like what Raph's doing. I have a fear that I'm going to get addicted to games again. And that's my problem with Raph and Stars Reach. He loved the idea and it's like, go for it. That's great. I like it. And I was like, cool. Okay, great. And then I reached for the burying of Dave's character, Kix. I just reached out to him on Discord and said, hey, I got an idea for a quick short. Do you got any free time in the next week to maybe do this? And we scheduled out some time and he jumped on real quick and I didn't even tell him what was going to happen. And we did that. And that's where half the fun comes in. And then also the moderators like you jumping in, being on Discord, being in the game, communicating, and helping us out with understanding the game. But not only understanding the game, I see you and Larynx jumping in and helping out with builds of different things and playing with the players and having fun with us. How much time do you actually get to do that just playing the game?
Oh gosh. Right now, more. But for a bit, I was doing. I'm in the middle of a grad school program and full-time work, or I was. So I would only get like maybe an hour every other play session. Sometimes they'd go longer. And I try to check out each individual build. Like if the build changes from thing to thing, I try to hop in and explore it a little bit because I want to be able to answer questions about what is currently up to date in the game. But right now, I am in between classes for a couple weeks, and I am genuinely two things I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to a long Stars Reach play session and being able to spend most of a day just sitting on a couch watching a TV show. I don't even know what show it's going to be yet, but just like not doing anything for a day is I'm excited about it. I've been thinking about trying to do Shogun because I hear a lot of good things about it, or Chernobyl, like a big show I can sink my teeth into.
Yeah. Something you can binge for quite some time. I have several of those that I go back to and I'll binge one, binge another, stuff like that, and then something new will come out, and I'll binge that, and then I jump back to the beginning of what I was binging because it's been like a year or two, and just rinse and repeat. But with the Stars Reach and you bringing up the longer test times, I am honestly surprised with how quickly they've been extending the test times. I mean, that was a shock to me. Are you guys given a heads up before they set the as they're setting the test times, or do you get notified when we're notified?
I think we usually get like a 3-day lead time. Usually at the end of every week, Rick or someone will toss us messages being like, hey, this is what we're intending to do next week. Be ready. The play sessions are going to be this long. Um, and then when we get closer to go time, we're given an outline for what our announcement should be, and someone, usually Lyric, will post the announcement for when the test will be and how long it'll be, and so that it's in the Discord. But yeah, we usually give a little bit of heads up, get a little bit of heads up so that at least some of us can be there. I think is the intention. But we don't usually get to learn too much more than you guys do ahead of time.
Okay, so you're not told like ahead of time, like, you know, we're working on the Twilight updates out. You probably don't know what the next update is, right? You're not given that kind of privilege.
No, we try to get information. And usually the devs are usually cagey about it and very careful with what they slip.
You're not the only one that tries to get the information. There's been several times I've talked to developers in these interviews, and I poked and prodded trying to get information. And here's the thing, I'm going to continue to do that because I'm hoping one day they slip. I'm hoping it'll either be Raph, because if Raph slips, no big deal. He owns the company, he runs the company. What is he going to do? Fire himself? Or, you know, Dave? You know?
You might get some stern Slack message from marketing, but what else are they going to do? Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, no. Sometimes they're just excited to talk about something, and if you catch them in the right mood, they're like, you know, will it really hurt if I let them know ahead of time?
Yeah,
and they'll let something slip.
Well, yeah, it's like talking to when I was interviewing the animator and asking what he's currently working on. He's like, well, okay, I can tell you a bit of what I'm working on, and started talking about melee weapons. And stated that there's an update coming out soon that, you know, will utilize these. I was like, ooh, that's juicy. And, you know, for me, if I don't ask those questions and at least try to get some of those snippets of information, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah.
You know, just like if you're not jumping in and separating people who are arguing with one another, you're not doing your job as a moderator. Now, with moderator capabilities, how much power and abilities do you have on the Discord to handle things?
I think all of the moderators have the same level of power, and it is one below server owner. Trying to remember, things got permissions got shuffled around a lot when we were migrating from the old Discord to the new Discord, and then when Frummy came on board and worked with Vestax and kind of rearranged everything into what we have now, which is a lot makes a lot more sense than our old setup. So I think permission wise, we still can do basically everything other than demote the owner or the admin of the server.
Okay, so basically you're able to do the muting of people if someone has an open mic in the you know, the play tests. You're able to, if they're in a verbal chat room, you can move them from verbal chat rooms.
Sometimes people just leave their mic on and walk away and forget about it, and you're like, I'll send them a DM and mute them and be like, hey, just let me know when you're back and I can.
Yeah, and that's good that you guys do that, and you guys are really on top of it, because I remember I left my mic live for a moment, and I got put into that whole entire situation, and you guys are quick to respond, because I came back and said, oh, sorry, I've you know, I'm back, I apologize for doing that, and it was, boom, I'm back up and running, and I think it might have even been you that did that, that muted me.
It might have been.
So, you know, keeping on your toes is very good thing. Now, with Stars Reach and you actually having time to play the game, what do you like doing in the game? What's the most enjoyable thing for you to do in the game?
I love being, I guess, Pathfinder. It's basically a continuation on what I love doing in Star Wars Galaxies. I like landing on the planet and finding all the points to make a map, getting like a handle of the zone, and then establishing a base camp near where other players are doing stuff and just helping out. So that's what I did in Star Wars Galaxies. You got your tent where other players will come running in to hunt like a monster, and they need to rest for a little bit. And you're like, here you go, have some monster meat. chill in my chair for a little bit, recover, and then they go back out. Um, in Stars Reach, uh, I know the map well. I know where the spawns are. I can run people around if they need to find stuff. And when we fight makers, I get to pull the maker out of the ground and then switch to my gun and help people take out the spawner. Those are my favorite things so far. I have to admit, I'm terrible at making buildings. I played Gary's mod for years. All of my friends ran circles around me. I am so bad at building tools. I usually have one idea for like one house in my head. I make it and I'm satisfied. I'm like, that's what my house is going to look like. It's cool visiting other people's stuff. I love that that's there. But for the most part, I kind of just like being a vagabond, going around, popping in to help people and then moving on.
Yeah, see, with me in Star Wars Galaxies and in this game, I'm a little bit different. I like being the bounty hunter. I enjoyed being the bounty hunter in the game and bit of a creature handler and going that route. And that was my original plan with the game. But something changed for me.
I'm excited to see how the creature handling goes.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see how the creature handling goes in this game too. But what's really changed for me, and I've added into this character, is mining. I added in mining, and no other MMO did I ever do any harvesting or crafting because I found it boring. Just sitting there and hitting a node over and over again. And then when you did the crafting, it was a simple, oh, click this, put the resource, done. And you know, Stars Reach, what I like is the mining is you're actually, one, you're manipulating the terrain. Two, you have the risk that if you hit the wrong area, it could collapse in some sand or mud or lava and stuff like that. So there's a risk of dying from that. And then the future plans of what they want to try to do of finding underground laboratories or caves that have creatures that are aggressive and stuff like that really interests me. And then for the crafting part of it, I like that because right now, as we're seeing with this current update of having the PQRV set up, where we can take those different resources and we really have to look to dial in what do we want to have our weapon do or our terrain manipulator do and work is really interesting because not everyone's Omni Blaster is going to be the same. They're all going to be different, and I love that.
It's a dream for people who like to customize stuff and feel like they own a piece of their character because literally your items will not be the same as everyone else's, even if you make them with all the same materials. Like if I use gold from one planet versus another, it's going to have different values. It's so cool. Even now where the stats aren't super reflected into the game yet, it still feels unique because you know what's going into it is unlike other stuff that people are using.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I played around with it in this update, and there are significant differences. I made a new... I had someone make me a new terraformer, and I had the default terraformer, and the battery would drain on the original terraformer really, really quick. And then recharge really quick. So it was do a little bit, okay, stop, do a little bit, stop, in mining. And then I got the new one, and it lasts twice as long for the battery, and it also pulls out more resources. Yeah. And so I see that difference, along with, I know that the companion orbs, with the ring of fire drones around you, based on certain stats, you can increase that number. And I think that that's really interesting. And as I mentioned when I talked about the patch notes, that some of the stuff is just behind the scenes, other stuff is actual visual, and I like both of them. And that's the reason why I got crafting into this game, is there's an actual purpose to it. There's not the crafting in other games of where you're going to find something better in the world, or there's no difference from you making this and this other person making it. It's all the same. You know, this, like you said, the person actually gets put their own personal stamp on it and makes it
Mm-hmm.
really interesting. Has there been any gameplay mechanics that you've seen put into Stars Reach that's made you change what you plan on doing with your character? And if so, what is it?
Yeah. Good question. I don't think yet. No, I think what I've been surprised at is that I've been enjoying kind of doing the same thing every single test, but seeing what has changed between tests.
Mm-hmm.
If anything has been tweaked, it's spending more and more time thinking about being a healer. I don't think I've ever played a healer in another game, but knowing that the recovery portion of this game is not going to be automatic. Like that's one of the things that changed over time in MMOs is downtime got taken out.
Mm-hmm.
Recovery, like you played EverQuest,
Yeah.
you would sit there, watch the bar fill up for ages, and while that
Oh yeah.
happens, you chat with other people. I'm not necessarily advocating going all the way back to that pace, but having the wound system like Star Wars Galaxies had and
Yes.
requiring you to go somewhere or have someone with you who can enter like an entertainer or a doctor who can patch you back up before you go back out kind of ties in a little more to the Pathfinder thing. So just staying at my camp and dancing when people come by, I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe I want to be a full-blown healer because this feels fun, like just as fun as going out there and shooting the maker monsters and stuff like that is actually pursuing the healing line. And I know healing has some work that's coming down the pipe. It needs to catch up to some of the other combat areas, but I am anticipating kind of changing my play style when that comes along. So it's not there yet, but
That's cool.
definitely
But,
thinking about it.
with that being said, I remember in Star Wars Galaxies, the healers being very social because you had the entertainers and you had the doctors and then you had the combat medics and stuff like that. So it sounds like you might be going more the combat medic sort of scout
Yeah.
direction, and I really like that you're looking at that and going, well, this interests me more because of the gameplay mechanics of the wound system. That's the one thing I liked in Star Wars Galaxies was that wound system because it gave the need and the want and the fun of being an entertainer. And
Yeah.
Raph did a good job in putting that together. And I like that even though he had other developers tell him, no, it's not going to work, he trusted his gut and went with it anyways to prove them wrong.
Yeah. And he has a great background in MUDs where stuff like that was way more common, where he's like, I know people enjoy doing this kind of thing because I've seen it. I played years of it in MUDs, newer players, but same idea. They'll probably like it too. What I'm wondering is, I know the entertainer role, or I'm pretty sure in Star Wars Galaxies, did not make it to release the same way it was penned out design-wise, and so it kind of suffered from a lot of AFK grinding and just people leaving their dancers going. So I'm really curious what that version of that profession is going to be in Stars Reach, because I know already in Star Wars Galaxies, mining was supposed to be a full-blown profession, but didn't make it to release and ended up just being people plop harvesters down and like kind of, which were fun in their own way, but that wasn't the intended thing. Mining was supposed to be its own skill tree, and we're seeing that in Stars Reach. So I'm wondering what healing and entertaining is going to be like, how different it's going to be from Star Wars Galaxies.
Yeah, the way I hope to see mining in Stars Reach is basically you start out with like how it is now. You're able to dig up very little, and then as you enhance and get better, you're able to get bigger yields, you're able to get better terraformer and stuff like that. I'd like to see the end of it being having that sort of harvester, automated harvester that you can put down. That would take up a resource. And with how Stars Reach is done, is in Star Wars Galaxies, those areas just sort of stayed there for like a week or two, and then they would rotate them. And it would change to something else. I remember that. And so you'd pick up your harvester and maybe move it to another area if you still need that one resource, or you keep it there and get a different resource. I'd like to see that come back in Stars Reach, because that was sort of fun, because then you had a choice. Do you want this other resource that's really good, or do you want to go and explore and find another spot for a really good resource that you were originally on? Would be fun. Also, talking about the entertainers, you are right that they did sort of go AFK. I think what really helped out was when they put in tipping. I think that changed, and it made it so that entertainers would talk with you more and interact with you more, because they'd see bigger tips.
Right. Yeah. Art imitates life.
Mm.
Yeah, no, that's oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure Raph remembers that too and is thinking about that.
If not,
Uh
we can always bring it up to them.
yeah. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're
Yeah.
one of the only frustrating things about having so many veterans on the dev team is a lot of times we will like talk about things and suggest things and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, no, that's pretty much already what we were planning." It's like, all right, okay. It's great that we're aligned, but whew. Um I know Hubi, especially in the early days, before we even knew what genre Stars Reach was going to be, whether it was fantasy or space, he basically had guessed the general design of the whole game. Not guessed, he pieced it together based on information we had and knowing Raph and previous work and stuff. And when I met with some of the devs at in San Diego, they're like, "Yeah, Hubi is kind of like when we're thinking about stuff, and if Hubi also has already said it, we're like, yeah, I guess we're on the right path because he's already figured out generally what we want to do."
Yeah, and you are right, because there's several times I've actually said, well, I'd like to see this in Stars Reach, or it'd be cool if you could do this. And hearing Raph or Dave go, yeah, we're actually going that direction. But the other good thing thing that they're doing is they're looking at going directions that none of us sort of thought about.
Yeah.
You know, I did not expect that mining would go the direction it did. You know,
It's so expansive.
It is, because I mean, I the closest I ever got to something like what Stars Reach does is No Man's Sky. And to me, that's okay, but it's easy to find the copper and the iron and the different resources you're looking for because they're on the surface. All I had to do was just do a low flyby really slow, and oh, there it is. There's no real need to scan. I like that Stars Reach was like, okay, yeah, we can have it on the surface, but why does it have to be on the surface? Why don't we hide it underground like happens in real life and have people dig for it?
Yeah.
And that's where I was like,
crazy how
there you
aligned
go.
it is with the real life science to like you kind of certain minerals are where you would expect them to be based on temperature and composition of the planet. And that's where, like, even when I heard that we were going to be digging through the earth for stuff like this, I didn't expect this level of geological simulation. Yeah, no, that has really surprised me. And my partner knows a decent bit more about natural sciences than I do. And so I was like, I can't find any, whatever it was, malachite or something. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, because you're in a grassy area. You need to go towards that volcano probably. And sure enough, she was right.
Now, is your partner going to play Stars Reach?
Yes. Even if just to spend time with me so that I'm not just playing it all the time. She is not, she plays games, but she is not a gamer the way I am, I guess.
Okay.
But she's already played a few times and really liked it, especially from a science perspective. She wants to collect all the flowers and all the bushes, which, I mean, I do too. Oh, you know what? That's kind of an answer to a question you asked before. I have changed. I've decided to go way more into harvesting plants than I ever thought I would. I see so many different kinds. I'm like, what's that? What's that? That looks weird. I want to collect that. I want to plant that near my house. I'm not a big collector in most games, but I don't know. Something about the plants grabbed me.
Yeah, well, I think what sort of grabbed me about the plants is the difference of looks. and that some
Mhm.
of them glow in different ways. Like you'll see
Yeah.
one tree, the leaves will glow, and then another tree, it's the parts of the bark will glow, and it'll have like a zebra stripe or tiger striping to it of different colors, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's really interesting. And with you liking collecting of the trees and the bushes, I'm pretty sure you were excited when they introduced pruning and stunting and stuff like that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's exactly what I've been waiting for. Yeah, no, and that kind of the hot fix to that landed right as I left come up to Maine. So I've got that looking forward to when I get back. But
Yeah.
I've been watching some of the streams and checking it out from afar.
And being a bit jealous.
A little bit.
Yeah,
A
a little
little
bit,
bit, yeah.
a little bit. So, you with the tests going longer and stuff like that, and you having some free time, how much of that free time in the next couple of weeks do you see yourself playing Stars Reach? Not because you're a moderator and to keep an eye on the players, but also just for fun.
Uh, I'm really not sure because I think I always try to at least be in the watching Discord or in the Discord voice when the tests are happening, but I kind of just I play usually until I crash. And if I log back in and crash again, I'm like, all right, I'll give it some time. So that'll be I haven't really run out of things to do yet. Uh, so long as I don't crash, I probably will just spend like 2 to 3 hours per session in the next upcoming tests, especially with the new stuff that they've added.
Yeah, and that's the really cool thing. Um, that I like is how quickly they're doing these updates and adding stuff.
I can't keep up.
I can't. I'm having a hard time either because I'm used to like, okay, you're in the beta, you play for like 3 months or 6 months, then you get an update.
Hmm.
Type of schedule, or maybe every month. This is like every 2 to 3 weeks we get an update, and it's not like a minor tweak to things. It's huge swaths of stuff changed.
Yeah, and some things with like big implications, like foundations to really good features, like now being able to trade currency and having the job boards and having items with stats. We're a couple steps away from an actual functioning economic loop. I think we talked about on the stream last week. It was we need items to degrade so that we have reasons to replace them, and we need more stat differentiation so that people can keep making different weapons and things like that. And then once players can start trading things for goods and services for Klatus, yeah, that's the game. That's the basic loop of the game.
Well, and that's what I really like, because what I like is I'll talk to people and they'll be like, well, I'm really big into combat. How am I going to make money in combat with this sandbox MMO? And there not being that many sort of quests. And I said, well, from the way they're talking, there are going to be missions and quests that you can do. They're player made, so you'll get a mission from, like, let's say a crafter who needs to have a bunch of gas from this one creature. They're not designed for combat, so they hire you to go out and get that gas. And then that's how you make your money and stuff like that. Or you can just go ahead and get a bunch of meat or hides or gas or whatever, or bones, and then sell that bulk on the market, and that's how you'll make the money. And they're like, well, what about gear? I said, well, that's where you spend your money to buy gear. And they're like, well, I can't find the gear? No, you don't find gear in the game. You make gear in the game. And they're like, so what's the point of killing taking out the creatures then? To get resources to make some of the stuff. And they're like, that's an interesting new loop. And I have not seen another MMO that's done that kind of loop for the creatures. Have you?
Just Star Wars Galaxies, really.
But Star Wars Galaxies...
And it takes a little bit to get people to wrap their head around it, that you need to if you kill guys, they're not going to drop swords, they're not going to drop gold. You need to essentially run that through to the mission terminal or trade with someone who needs it.
Mm.
And it's all going to be players. I was just actually having a conversation last week with someone who's just like, well, no, player driven MMO can't really work because players don't really need anything. I'm like, what do you mean? They need weapons, they need armor, they need everything to play the game. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, yeah, they can just get that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, they get it from crafters. Crafters make it. The fighters get the materials. They give it to the crafters. Crafters give them gear they can use to fight bigger monsters, get more materials, and different materials. Even just, I mean, there's money to be made even just loading up special resource from one planet and bringing it to another where that resource doesn't exist, and a crafter in that planet really wants to use it, and then you just pocket the difference.
Yeah, and that's the great thing, because that's what's interesting about the market is you'll see a bunch of iron on the market, I believe, and each iron is going to be a different value because of the quality of the iron, and the stat capabilities of the iron will change the value. So I see that, like Eve has a huge economics thing. I think the economics of this game could be even further because of the way the resources are done.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what do you think the chances of them going out and bringing an economics person into the game, and do you think it would help out the game if they were bringing an economics expert into it, like Eve did?
Yes. I think at a certain point of scale, it will. I think the developers currently understand game economies very well. And not to just like keep brown nosing Raph, but he's got a very solid handle on sinks and faucets and things like that to keep game economies running. But at a certain point, it does become a full-time job. And I imagine if the game reaches a scale where it is successful enough where, enough goods are being built up that need to be kind of watched for someone exploiting a rare resource that maybe broke something, and now all of a sudden there's a run on that resource, which maybe topples a bank, which, like, yeah, I think they would hugely benefit from a full-time economist. I don't think they need one necessarily for consulting before launch, but after launch, almost definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah, and you're right. Raph has done a really good job with that. And, brown nosing to Raph is like easy because of his skills and his knowledge in the field and his expertise. And then on top of that, he's a really nice, down to earth person.
There's got to be something wrong with him. He's got to.
I haven't found one.
Ice cream or something.
I haven't found one. There was this actress that was talking about Chris Hemsworth, and she was like, he's a nice guy, he's handsome, he's athletic, he does some of his own stunts, all this other stuff. And she was like, I gotta find something wrong with him. Maybe he's a bad singer. And then she hears him sing, and she does this guttural shut up to him. And he looks at her and he's like, what? She's like, there's gotta be something just wrong with you that's bad. And I think Raph is sort of the same way. We're not really going to find something bad with Raph, because I mean, he does some music production stuff that he's mentioned, where he plays around with music and stuff like that. He's writing the lore for the game and stuff like that. It's like, what can't Raph do?
He's got a wide breadth of interests, and he's competent at so much of it. And it's just like, where do you get the time? Where's the hole in your talent base? Like, maybe it's, I don't know. It's mathing. Nope. It doesn't matter. It's fine. It's good to have someone like that making a game.
But that that's what I really like about him is he's also humble. He knows that there might be some issues with certain aspects of the game. So when we ask, is this going to be in the game? And he goes, well, we're going to try to aim for this. And he explains what they're going to try to aim for, but we don't know if it's going to work correctly. Even though I've done it in the past in Star Wars Galaxies or Ultima Online, I don't know how that system is going to interact with our simulation that we have going with this new tech. So in all honesty, he's stating that basically, yeah, I can do that in a normal MMO very easily, but with this new tech, we don't know. It's uncharted territory. Everything that he's done in the past is uncharted territory with this new simulation tech that he's done.
Yeah. And with so many questions, I know there's a decent chunk of people who look at kind of the realm of possibilities and see it through the lens of like what can be exploited. I know my best friend is so good at exploiting any kind of hole in an MMO, and he's wondering exactly how to do that with this game. And I do think just inherently in the way it is designed, it opens itself up to more abuses than most games. Because most limit what players can do so substantially in order to prevent that kind of stuff. Whereas Raph's philosophy has always been more give players the tools to defend themselves and also the tools to need, tools they can get into trouble with where people will need to defend themselves with. And so I think a lot of things are going to come out in implementation because nothing has really been done on this scale before. We'll see just how effective it is for players to police their own planets. There's going to be, right now, I feel like we're in the idyllic stage of testing where we're making sure all the basic features work, we're making sure they scale, we're making sure it's fun. But then when we get to the big social endpoint stuff, like the building of planet cities and politicians and worrying about what happens if a corporation lands on your planet and takes it over and strip mines it, that's when we're going to have to start figuring out how to balance, like, okay, what's the rate that people can transport goods? How fast can they build terraformers? How fast can planets recover? There's going to be a lot of details that need to be figured out in real time because they haven't been done before. And there might be some pain points at that point when we are figuring them out. And it'll be during testing, but these days some people treat testing like it's the final game and might just my fear, and this isn't a real, like, I think it's going to happen. My dark fear is that we're going to trip over something like that and the game is going to get branded as like a Rust gank box or something like that. And people are going to dismiss it. And I do think if a game is fun enough, it can recover from a label like that. Especially when you hit full release and you've in theory ironed out that issue. If it's fun, people are just going to play it. Because I remember when Minecraft was in early development, they opened up the multiplayer and it had a reputation for people just killing each other and having stupid little blocky graphics. But it was just fun. It was fun, and there were so many different ways that you could create your own server and limit what people do and self-police and just all these different modes that, it's the biggest game in the world right now, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the creator made a lot of money off of it. And, well, it's just look at another good example is look at how No Man's Sky launched.
Right.
It launched.
They turned it around.
Really bad. And they kept their mouth shut. They put their nose to the grindstone. And they, like you said, they turned it around. And now people are praising the game 9 years later about how awesome it is and stuff like that. And, every so often they have a stumble where really bad bugs are introduced and people start slamming it. I'm just like, give them time. It's a small team. And that's what I try to do here with Stars Reach is I always state, look, it's in pre-alpha. They're still working on. What you see is not the final product.
Yeah.
Give
and what
it
I
time.
really Yeah. And what I really wanted to do, as much as I can't physically do this, but I can encourage it, is as a moderator, I wanted to encourage people to have that mindset of this is a game that's being built in progress, give it some grace, help test it, question it for sure.
Yeah.
poke holes in it where you can, so that it can, when it launches, it can be in the best state it can be. And the people who have joined have all been kind of similar mindset and similar collaborative goals of like, yeah, we're all just really excited to make sure that this thing works the way we want it to, because I don't know, there's this energy around it that it's not like a last hurrah. It's potentially a new hurrah for old style sandbox MMOs.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's bringing back some of the old with also introducing some new, and I think that's what's going to attract the players. Normally when you introduce a game and it has the same gameplay mechanics as all other games, you're just sort of like, I'm gonna look at as, what's the story like? What's the art style like? Does that interest me? And go from there. Right. Whereas if there's new gameplay mechanics that they haven't seen before that interest them, and they're like, I need to play around with that. I think that's what's going to drag the players in. I think what's going to drag the players in for Stars Reach is the whole entire simulation thing.
Yeah.
That's never been done before in MMO. And I think that's the number one drawing factor.
Absolutely. And I think probably the article that sucked me into reading Raf's blogs were those articles about Ultima Online's ecology system back in the alpha, which now we've learned has been a little bit exaggerated by Richard Garriott and some other articles. It never quite worked as well as some think about it, but it's been the dream since then to simulate a world and to live in a living, breathing world. And this is the closest I've ever seen anything coming to it. And I want to be there for it. I want to see it happen.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun, playing in this virtual world, and it's the first game where I feel that we're actually in a good virtual world, and the limitations are really boundless, especially with the way they want to try to do it. And that's the other thing I gotta give to Raph is the way he sets expectations up. I really like it. He's like, the example I want to give is starships. Like, okay, we're going to have starships in the game for you to travel around. We want to have it so that you can modify them and put them together with different modules so that you can make it really big or really small with these different modules and stuff like that. Like have a cockpit and then a hull and then like a dining room area and stuff like that type of design. And he goes, but at the beginning, we're going to have these preset starships. Then in the background, we're going to try to do that, see if we can get that modular thing to work. If not, at least we have the predefined starships to stick with. And I think that's a smart move that he's making.
Yeah. And it's a credit to the community that they are receptive to that they are like, okay, yeah, not everything all at once. We'll, take this piece by piece and not overhype ourselves, not overhype what we're getting. People seem to really listen to the information given.
Well, I think the reason being is because it's coming from a point of honesty. He's admitting that, hey, it may not work this way. We don't know. We're in new territory here. And that puts him down to earth. It doesn't feel like he's the almighty best game developer ever. He knows that there could be some flaws and mistakes. And it's those developers that think that they can do anything that causes them to fail. And so that's where I see that this is going to be a success. It's because he's setting the right expectations. And that's another reason why I think the game will be a success, even in this pre-alpha, is those expectations are set so early on and set in the right way.
Yeah. And he's not pushing, no one on the team is giving ridiculous expectations and then, following that up with, hey, give us more money. It's all, it's just it does feel very transparent what the goals are. Not necessarily what's coming in the next patch or, what exactly is going to be the weapons in the combat system, things like that. But the things that matter the expectations are being given to us, and we're not being sold a cloudy dream. Cloudy dream. We're not
Yeah.
being sold anything that's vapor, you know?
Well, and that's a good point, because a lot of those Kickstarters for MMOs and stuff like that, nothing was actually built yet. It was all just
Yeah.
sort of design. I think Raph did it right by getting it to pre-alpha, proving that the simulation idea works, that the world sim thing works, and for multiple worlds and things like that, and getting that baseline out there and showing that. And then also
Yeah.
having the pre-alpha going, and then during the Kickstarter, inviting more people in and things like that to
Yep.
get them to play around, put in more trust. And I think that's the reason why the Kickstarter did so well, is it's no longer that, oh, well, he says he can do it, he has the reputation to possibly do it, I might give it a shot. It's more of a, okay, he has the reputation to do it, he's shown he can do this thing that's never been done before, and he has the experience of doing this other stuff that he wants to do. And then,
Yeah.
hearing from people who've actually played the game sort of solidifies it more.
Yep. And that, the whole Kickstarter wasn't part of the original plan. That
Yeah,
was it's such a complete bloodbath in the gaming and tech industry right now
it
that
is.
it was an unfortunate thing that they had to turn to that. But it was such a huge boon that the game had already been in development as long as it was, and so that instead of being like, "Hey, once we fund, we're going to start development," it's like, "Oh no, we've been working on this. Here's what we got so
Yeah.
far. Let's get it kind of over the hump." That helped a ton, I'm sure. Being able to just hop in immediately and see what it was like, and see that these crazy ideas are already working, um, and getting better over time very quickly. Some of the developers, I'm like, do they sleep?
Yeah. I wonder the same thing too. But, and that's the thing. When you talk about it, in that way, it's, they did the right steps in showing and not telling. And
Yeah.
that's the reason why it was good. And speaking on the developers not sleeping, I agree with you. A small team doing something that, other MMO vets are like, that's really hard to do. You're going to need a big team, and they're trying to do it on a smaller budget. I mean, look at what Star Wars The Old Republic spent to get built, or APB spent to get their sort of Grand Theft Auto like MMO going. They spent,
Right.
hundreds of millions of dollars. And here's a game with way smaller team spending way less money and doing something that's never been done before. But I think it's able to do that because of the skills of the developers they have behind it.
Yep. Absolutely. They've been very smart with their money, very, very uh, methodical, and they're going into a space where there's not a lot of competition,
Mm-hmm.
almost none in the MMO sphere. It puts them up against things more like Minecraft than anything
Yeah.
else. Um, and I think it's kind of continuing in the same vein of the writing is on the wall that EverQuest Next saw, where it's, we can't keep dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into heavily scripted, photorealistic worlds where you're following a single player quest line. It's all voice acted by celebrities. It's like a money pit that might pay off, but almost certainly won't.
Mm-hmm.
We need to find a way to give people a world and the tools to interact with that world so that they can make the content and enjoy their time there,
Yeah.
rather than us making all of it.
And in all honesty, that's a smart move, because if the players make the content, then it's going to continue growing and being big. I mean, No Man's Sky. Yeah, it has a storyline, but even once you're done with that storyline, you have all these worlds to explore, and they're doing these constant new updates. And that's the other thing that I see with the MMOs is you notice the MMOs that last the longest are the ones that are constantly putting out new expansions and new things for the players, new classes, new dungeons, new locations to explore. And the ones that die off are the ones that stop doing that.
Yeah.
They don't
Yep.
invest the extra money to do that. And I think that's the one thing that Stars Reach needs to sort of pay attention to is, to continue enhancing. And with the way Raph and Dave have been talking, that's their plan. They want to keep on adding and adding and adding to it to keep it going.
One of my big hopes is that there's going to be an evolving storyline, kind of like I guess Helldivers has done recently. But I always think to how Asheron's Call had a very player-driven storyline that, thinking back, it seemed very hard to maintain because they had multiple servers and players impacted the story on some servers, but not all the servers. Players acted the same way. Now we're going to be all in one big giant server. So if you're ever going to tell one unified story influenced by the players, now you can do that. And it feels like they're setting up for something like that with the way the lore works. There's going to be lots of room to have the galaxy's poised at kind of like a point where a lot of different things could happen depending on what the players do. So it's not all going to just be player content. It does seem like there's a framework for the devs to be able to tell a story and have things happen. But I'm the most excited about the players being able to steer it.
Yeah. Well, they're already sort of steering their own stories, because look at what Gunk did with their last video. They showed the destruction that happened when they got rid of the 5 planets and then brought in the starbase and the 3 new planets. They did that and then showed the build process of the spaceship that's now out there and used that as sort of a storyline of, oh, we built this spaceship to get people out from that area to this new galaxy type of thing. And it plays that story. So even if
I love it,
the developers don't do a story, which, I agree, they should do a main overarching story that players can influence, would be really fun, because then that brings in more players. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a sandbox, but at least I have something to drive towards main story wise and try to influence one way or another. And it's sort of like in PlanetSide and PlanetSide 2, you got the 3 factions warring against each other, and what you do can determine the flow of battle and how things come out and who takes over the continent. And so what you do actually matters in the game. I think the developers could sort of do the same thing there with the big overarching story, but in the granular things, we already changed the world. And literally when I say change the world, we actually changed the world by mining and creating different waterways and where we plant things and stuff like that. Changes the world. And it's a really interesting way of seeing things. And what I like is how quickly the developers can respond to things such as, oh, you're not supposed to be able to do that. Let's change that real quick. And they don't even have to take the server down. Like when we were able to put palm trees out on the asteroids in space is a good example. What do you think of their ability to adjust things and change things while the server's going, sort of code-wise and gameplay-wise?
They've already shown a decent amount of ability to change things, but from what I remember being pitched to me when I asked about it's so much is going to be run through the server that they can make pretty sweeping changes without bringing anything down. And I think that is definitely going to lend itself very well to developer-driven events. I am not savvy enough server side wise to know what exactly would necessitate bringing things down. I know they've had to rebuild worlds sometimes when they've changed their planet generation, like
Mm.
when they changed the way different minerals adhere to one another. That impacts how the world is generated because that impacts how the core is formed, how the mountains are formed, and then that informs what trees are growing off of it. So they're like, yeah, we just have to make a new planet. We can't tweak that. Everything will, not work. Um,
And that's the thing,
but
is they've had the experience with that. When they
yeah,
put in the adhesion, and all that does is it just makes the developer who works on that, Megan, sit there and go, well, I'm going to be busy for a while, you know.
yeah,
But with interviewing her, she has the passion for the job.
yeah, yeah,
And so when you have the passion for something, it doesn't really feel like work because you're enjoying it.
right.
You
Yeah,
know,
and I mean that's kind of what I working. Being a mod here has not generally felt like work almost at any point. I mean, it's
Mm.
not. I'm not being paid for it,
Yeah.
but it has not. It has felt like me helping a collective hobby more than anything else. I've been in mod positions before where I've gotten some sort of compensation that has felt like work. And sometimes that can come down to how the community responds to you. Um, I witnessed some in real time. Uh, it's crazy how quickly they can turn sometimes because for one game where I was a moderator on their IRC channel, I wasn't a forum mod, but I interacted with the forum mods. There was
Mm.
one guy who was the head moderator who was getting into a fight with some of the players who wanted to be able to swear without being censored on the forums.
Mm-hmm.
And he explained very thoroughly why they shouldn't be able to do that. And then he said, "No, you know what? I'm going to drop the filter for 2 weeks, and we'll see what happens." And the forums just completely changed. They just became so much more negative, and people attacking one another and coming up with the most creative insults they could. And he came back in and being like, "Okay, see why we need the language filter," and he turned it back on, and it kind of never really went back to the way it was. Uh, Being a part of that community at times felt like work because people always felt like they were fighting you and ready to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but combination of the people attracted to games that RAF makes, I think the general maturity level of the people in the community, and the fact that the communication is so good. There's not a lot of that like anger and ready to fight attitude festering, and it's just been kind of a joy to be along for the ride, I guess. I don't feel like, other than when I'm wrestling with Discord permission roles and trying to get things to work like server wise,
Mm-hmm.
the people have never felt like a job. And I think maybe it feels that way to a lot of the developers who are just like, yeah, I am doing my passion project, and the community makes it very easy.
Yeah, and I agree with you because the way that, I mean, even Raph and Dave interact with us is
Yeah.
amazing because they'll just sit and chat with us and goof around with us and tell us stories and answer questions. And it never sounds like we're pestering them or bugging them because
Yeah.
they're just as passionate and as excited about this game as we are. And especially you being a moderator, moderator positions are always voluntary. And
Hmm.
so that just shows your passion. And I thought to myself, when they were expanding moderation, I thought to myself, I should maybe become a moderator. The only thing that stopped me from doing that was my spelling and grammar is not that great, and I know that. And I don't want the game to look bad by having a moderator that has bad spelling and grammar and might be misunderstood. So I immediately knocked myself out, going, that's not the right space for me. The right space for me is to continue being a content creator, letting people know about the game, what's happening with the game, how it's evolving, both the good and the bad.
Yeah. I mean, you can take something I can't do that you can do is you can take stuff that's happening in game and disseminate it out to a broader audience.
Mm.
So, and yeah, that is that is a service to the game and the people who might be interested in the game because they get to see what it's like and figure out whether they would enjoy it or not. Yeah, no, modding is not for everyone, and there are good mods and there are bad mods, and people going in for the right reasons and the wrong reasons. And I don't know. So far, it does feel like a top-down, very healthy culture around the game, and I hope it maintains as things scale.
Yeah.
Usually it does. Usually, if you've got a good core going, it keeps snowballing with that kind of attitude.
I 100% agree with you, because in Star Wars Galaxies, it started out that way, and the developers sort of enforced, hey, keep a good behavior, and Say Heroes did the same thing. What you get out of those communities? Really good, polite, friendly players that are nice to one another. Even though both of those games had PvP in them, the players still respected one another. And they're doing the same thing here with Stars Reach. They, they set expectations, people follow those expectations, and I think the community is going to be a very friendly community to one another because of that thing. The one thing I want to ask you, one last question, then
Sure.
we'll wrap it up. What's the one thing that the developers have done for the game that surprised you, that they put into the game that you did not expect?
One surprising thing. Well, other than the geology stuff that I had mentioned before, one surprising thing in the game, I think it's the animal communication systems. How the animals have a right now is very under the hood, and we can't see too much of it. But the animals are not just animals, monsters, whatever, aren't just wandering around randomly. They are responding to stimuli in the world, to their needs for hunger, for hurting, for aggression, fear, like all that system. Uh, they are exhibiting somewhat realistic animal behaviors based on under the hood calculations. And I think the plan is to keep expanding that, and that's going to tie into the creature handling role, which might also tie into the alien languages thing. And I think, unless I'm mixing my information, they hinted that players will eventually be able to understand what animals and aliens are saying. Um, that is a surprise to me.
Yeah.
Um, so it feels like that's one of the things that could just be fun fluff, or it could be a really expansive system. Um, and that's going to be somebody's going to come into this game, and that's going to be the whole way they play it. It's just going to be herding, breeding, and talking to animals, and that's a whole game
Yeah,
unto
I mean,
itself.
the basis for it, like you said, is already there. We already see those emoji
Little
bubbles
faces.
faces pop up where it shows relief or scared or angry and things like that, and you can use those to do the basis of animal taming and sneak up on predators. And that's something I've never seen in an MMO, is being able to actually, unless you were a rogue, being able to sneak up on an aggressive creature.
Mm-hmm.
If you played it right, and kept an eye on that, and that's a little mini game in itself, is sneaking up and, oh, okay, they've got that aggressive emoji, let me stop, let me see the relaxed emoji go, and then sneak some more. That's a little fun mini game. Whether you're going
Was
to
that your
tame,
video or the picture of you collecting like a cluster of creatures?
yeah, that was. I think that was Dr. Drake that did that,
Dr. Dream.
or
Yeah.
Telster, or one of the other guys did that. I have yet to do any of the creature handling taming stuff because it's bare
It was
basics.
possible until I saw that.
Yeah. Well, the developers thought it wasn't possible either. And then, because I remember Dave was on there, and one of the guys was like, I just tamed such and such. And Dave was like, wait, what? Because that's when they put in the new Carvax, the dog that looks sort of like an insect. And so Dave likes to be in there to see what people's reactions to the new features are, which I really like. But when someone said, "Oh, I tamed one of those," he's like, "Wait, what? You did what? Show me, share your screen." And he was shocked. And what they do? They didn't take it out. They didn't turn it off. He said, "I'm going to do a video about this. I'm going to share this." And Dave was like, "Yeah, go ahead." And that's what I like. They thought one thing and another thing happened, and the developers are just as shocked as we are on some things. And another good example of that is with the world simulation and someone digging down in a lake, hitting lava, and then a geyser happening. The developers, Raph knew that the mathematics were there for it to possibly happen, but he'd never seen it happen. And when he saw it happen, he was giddy and excited and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All of us were. And that was really interesting.
That's the magic. Yeah, that's the magic of the game that is so hard to explain to other people. But once they get it, they're like, "Oh, wow. Yeah. No, that's cool."
Yeah, it is. And that's what I like about it. But the one thing that surprised me and took me by shock is a profession. The journalist profession.
Oh, yeah.
I did not expect that. That was out of the left field. Long shot, and it's still how it's going to work depends on what Raph is able to do with getting the APIs from YouTube and Twitch. And he stated that right up front and was very honest about it. This may not be all we hope it to be, but there will be some kind of journalist profession one way or another. What it's able to do depends on what we can get access to.
Yeah.
And it's once again him stating the expectations early so that we don't over expect. We don't immediately go, "Oh, it's going to connect to Twitch. It's going to connect to YouTube." We know that now, early on, that it's the dream.
And it's nice to know that that's what they're shooting for.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something new that I have not seen in another video game, where you're able to stream or do a video, and the XP you get from that for that profession is based on how many people are watching your video or how many people are watching your stream and interacting with your content. And that dream idea of doing it that way was interesting. Now, I hope he can get the APIs to be able to do that, because it'd be something new and different. If not, he's got at least backup plans that he hasn't fully told us, but he has backup plans because he's every so often talked about the journalist. Yes, we are working on the journalist and so on and so forth. So, I like the fact that he goes for the dream, but he sets up a plan to make at least something possible.
Yeah. And that's, that journalist profession is kind of, so one of the things I'm looking forward to doing when we get more information about it, I'm not sure if this will be possible. It's just kind of like what I'm hoping for. I would like at some point to have either my own planet with a clan or a section of a planet where I made a bunch of small mini games and mods using the Half-Life engine growing up. Small, like little FPS arena games. And knowing that we have a lot of permissions over PvP and a lot of world generation and creation stuff, I would like to create essentially like playground of FPS maps where players can come in and based on where they are, they're allowed to use specific weapons and they're assigned teams, and they can essentially have like a little FPS game inside of an MMO. Of course, that's contingent on the PvP rules, the housing rules, and how smooth the gunplay actually is. But having a journalist there broadcasting maybe like in professional in-game teams going at one another in this little arena based on rules the fun rules to a little mini game that my friends and I made like 10 years, 15 years ago. That's really cool. And that's even potentially possible is something. It might not work out that way, but
Yeah.
the it's possible.
It is possible. And to take it one step further, because of how the physics work and the simulation works, imagine adding a ball into that, or a puck, or a frisbee,
Yes,
or something like
yeah.
that, and turning it into an actual sport that's not PvP, or maybe combining the two where it's a PvP sport. And you
Yep.
get something like Blood Bowl, where your character has a chance of actually being taken out and injured and stuff like that, is an interesting idea. Now, I'm pretty sure that if
Grapples.
yeah, I think if Raph or Dave are watching this, they're probably furiously taking notes right now and going, well, maybe after launch. Because I've heard them say that before. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Maybe after launch. And I like the fact that they're not doing the feature creep of, oh yeah, we're going to add that. It's a after launch. Let's get what we already plan for launch done, and then we add things. And even some of the features that they want to have for launch, they've even said we might have to push off after launch, such as the modular ships. They said ships will be in before launch. We don't know if we'll be able to do modular ships before launch. So that might be an after launch thing.
Yep.
That's a smart move.
They've got features that they can potentially bring in after the fact that will expand the game in a way that doesn't break it. That they're thinking ahead.
Exactly. And that they're, it feels nice to hear a developer be grounded and not overhyping a game. It feels more honest to me. And that's the reason why I'm trusting in the game. Is I'm so sick and tired of developers over promising and overstating things, and then we don't get exactly what they promised. Things are missing. And a lot of the times what ends up happening is the developers then walk away and don't do much with it. It's very rare that we get a No Man's Sky situation. But when we do, look at what happens. And so what I think is going to happen here is it's not going to be a No Man's Sky situation because of the expectations that they're going to set. But I think over time, more and more people are going to see this and what can be done, and more features will be added that a person's going to go, ooh, that feature they just added, that interests me. I think that would be fun. And I think that's where we're going to be bringing in a lot of people. I want to thank you for your time, Signus. I know we went really long. It's been like an hour and a half of a talk.
It's been fun. We are similar people.
Yes. We have to do this again. And I think once I'm done with these interviews, I want to do interviews with a group of people from the team. Get some moderators in there and some developers in there, and do sort of like a round table type discussion. And just have a conversation about the game. I think it'd be really, really fun.
Well, you know where to find me.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'll keep you in the loop. If I don't see you on Discord, I'll hunt you down in the game. But thank you for your time, and everyone have a great day.
Everyone.